This is our little pumpkin patch. Got some Indian corn back there. These are blue Hubbard squash, winter squash, and they are loaded. There's one every node. Here's one. Then these three back here are Connecticut field pumpkins in these containers. I've got 3 containers. Boom, boom, boom. They're trailing off down this hill. Look at this. So I want you guys to learn what I've learned on how to grow the most beautiful pumpkins ever. It's starting to rain. Can you believe this? So I'm gonna work really quick because it just started raining. I thought the rain was gonna stop and I come out here to film this and it's not. Guys, this is amazing. If I could get it all in the camera, I would. It's huge, it's huge. 3 blue Hubbard squash have taken over the yard. My husband couldn't even cut grass where they're running. I've tried to move them. I can't help it. I'm looking at one right here. There's squash everywhere, winter squash. So this is what I've learned from the past 4 years of gardening, how to grow winter squash and pumpkins to have the best harvest you've ever had. Number 1, this bed right here is nothing but compost. It's full of earthworms. I throw leaves in it, shredded paper, cardboard. This past fall, I put amendments in it. We'll talk about that in a minute. But a good loose soil does well with these. Very, very well. The leaves are huge on this blue Hubbard squash. If you can see, I mean, that's bigger than my waist. I mean, it's huge. And it keeps the soil cool. I think that's going to be a huge trick to a lot of this. It shades its own roots out. This corn I've got back here, it's doing better than corn I've got in other spots. It all works together. It's like a modified 3 Sisters garden with the corn, the pole beans, and the squash at the bottom. But I like it all together. Just know that it'll shade out, okay? This bed is raised. I think, in my personal opinion, through all the winter squash and pumpkins I've planted, it's raining pretty good, get it in a raised bed up off the ground. That way, the leaves are not sitting in water. They're not sitting in wet dirt. They're trailing along the ground how they see fit, away from the roots. It's going down. If you can raise it up, a lot of people will plant their pumpkins in mounds. That way it'll travel down. I always do, but there's nothing like this raised bed. It's about 1 foot tall. Works great. Next, it's in full sun right here all day long. That's good for it. Third, and the trick to it, when I said I worked with this fall, I brought chicken manure to this bed by the Rubbermaid totefuls and dumped it in there. My husband thought it would be too much. Look at it. Chicken manure is the secret to growing beautiful plants. It's high nitrogen. A lot of people will worry that it's only foliage instead of fruit. I've not seen that not one time, and I went extremely heavy with this. There's pumpkins, again, every foot on the vine. I've never seen anything like this. Pumpkins and squash are heavy feeders. Any kind of winter squash, any kind of big fruit that you're going to get off this, big vegetable. So it needs a lot of nutrients and supplements, and that comes from your chicken manure. Now, did I use composted chicken manure? Well, by this spring, it was already composted into the dirt. These buckets over here, let me show you. Right, look at this. I mean, it's growing over 1 foot per day. I've measured it. If I can get my camera to stand up. Those gray buckets, I used fresh chicken manure from up under there, and I filled these buckets half full of chicken manure, and then I used mulch. I dug out pine straw, leaves, and it's worked. I'm gonna flip the camera around. This is fresh chicken manure. These roosters right here, that's their poop. I used that before I planted the seeds. You may not want to do that. That's just what I did. The soils went down in level a little bit, but it's okay. It's going to do that no matter what kind of raised bed you've got. These, again, are the Connecticut field pumpkins. I have never. Hey, kitty, kitty. I've never in my life. Here are, that's blue Hubbard. I'm trying to trace him back. Blue Hubbard. I've never seen anything like this. Blue Hubbard. Everywhere. Everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So 3 things that I'm going to recommend for you to do. I want you to plant it in full sun. I think it's best if they're planted in mounds. See here, I'm gonna squat down ground level. See how it's just trailing down? You're not gonna get root rot as bad, or you're not going to get leaf rot, powdery mildew if the leaves are up off the ground and they're so tall, they're staking themselves. You can see the pumpkin leaves in there. This is the Blue Hubbard. That's the difference in size and the shape here. But I've not seen any vine borers. I've not seen any powdery mildew. But the last thing is chicken manure. Chicken manure works for any kind of heavy feeder. I've seen wood ash for this stuff. I've seen bone meal, blood meal, whatever you want to use, that's fine. But I personally think chicken manure is the way to go with any kind of heavy feeder like a squash or a pumpkin. I was going to see here, I saw one on the vine. Now, when you plant these, they're going to take over your yard if you're doing this right. If you're doing it right and you're throwing the nitrogen to it through the manure and the amendments, they're going to take over your yard. They're way down that hillside. I have never in my life, with 6 plants, I mean, this is insane. Insane. All right, so this is my poor man's raised bed landscape border. I built all of this spring, so there's stuff sprouting in it. We're going to take care of that this fall. But these are my Jaharadales. These are yellowing. These are not growing. They're growing. You can see back in there, but not like the other ones. I know that they may not be the size of the Blue Hubbard, but they should not have yellow leaves. The reason they do is they're struggling for nutrients. I have not side dressed these with chicken manure, and that's the difference, guys. They'll make, but it won't be a whopping harvest like that I just showed you. See, the leaves are wanting to die off because it's struggling for nutrients when you get a vine this long. This is my best one. And if you can see here at the very end, there's my first pumpkin that I can find. I've got it mixed in with okra here, but I love this one. And I think he likes it too because he can run down that hillside and trellis. The other ones I've had to weave and bob in here because of the grass cutting. And they're running along this, but they're not thriving like my other pumpkins. So this is what will happen if you don't use some kind of fertilizer supplement, whatever you choose. But this is what mine look like compared to the ones I use chicken manure on. That right there. So guys, throw the chicken manure to it. If you're going to do that, put water behind it. Tons of water or either rain. If you're going to do that, it throws the nitrogen to it. It will help your plants. We'll see you guys next time on Harmon Homestead.